Pikes Peak is nothing but the Wild West of racing.
Porsche has a history of hill climbs going back to the late 40s.
speed on the lower section is incredible, and the rush you get from seeing all the spectators, this beautiful environment, and this incredible amount of velocity right off the bat, this is indescribable.
With the pavement, it's a complete road racing line. And you know, traditional road racing courses are 11 turns, 2.5 miles. This is 156 turns and over 12.5 miles.
Fred's approach to Pikes Peak this year seemed different. He was definitely fit. He was prepared mentally. His car was prepared exceptionally, and he had the race envisioned in his mind what he was going to do.
From day one, I know him. He was a competitive guy. When he drove, and he wanted to do things the proper way. That was my opinion of Fred. Very, very meticulous, and he had sort of a feel for driving a car fast.
Engineers to Glen Cove is one of the most enjoyable sections of the course because you have these very technical, challenging, increasing and decreasing radius corners, many of which are blind. There really isn't a rhythm to it, and yet it's very technical. A lot of the corners look alike but are very, very different in terms of their approach. You really have to be on your game in order to keep the momentum going, and they really require you to know where you are on the course. This is the corner that I went off last year. It was early in the morning, I had cold tires, and obviously I made a mistake. I went about 200 feet down the mountain, but it really set the stage for this year's preparation in terms of what I needed to do.
The 2014 Pikes Peak Hill Climb race effort started off on a totally different foot than the 2013 did. We really got concentrated on making some upgrades to the car to make the car much more aggressive on the hill, much more consistent, and a car that would perform much better.
This is his third time up the hill. and it takes about 3 years to really learn that mountain and get a combination of tires and weather and everything else.
Come through Glen Cove, you're forced to go to the left-hand side of a guard gate. It's a surreal experience because there are people lining the course, and you're coming in third or fourth gear at a very high rate of speed into a tight corner with a rock wall on the outside. You're never quite sure how fast to go through, and every time you always feel you left some speed on the table. Come through Elk Park, you're just frankly scared to death. All you see is blue sky, you're in fourth gear, and it's a blind corner coming in. You just have to hit your marks exactly right there.
W's, for me, start with Elks Park. It's the first long sweeper. It leads you up to the first major hairpin on the W section. And that typically is one of the most dangerous because it's very high speed and it's completely blind. And so what we discussed was where to be on the track, what to look for in order to get a heads up on when to start shutting the car down before you even see the turn. After that, it was going into the W's and how to attack them and count and know where you are. So it was important for him to, always remember where he was in the section, because some end with turns, some open up. So, obviously you don't want to get that wrong, and other people have in the past.
The W's are a very technical part of the course. You have to be very precise in your braking because accelerating out of each corner is a premium on your momentum. You really have to remember what each corner does and how it affects the car. For our car, the W's are all about momentum, but the inside of the corners is very, very steep, so you don't necessarily want to clip each apex. You just really don't want to lose time going up through them. The turbo is a bit of a double-edged sword. On the lower sections, on the tight corners, you lose a little bit of the grunt, but as you go up the mountain and you're into the faster sections, it really works well. Make a mistake here, you can go 1,500 feet off the mountain. When you come up off the top of 16 Mile into Devil's Playground, all you see are thousands of spectators yelling and cheering. At this point, you're accelerating from third to fourth gear. The speed is great, and you realize you're now into the very fast section of the upper part of the course. When you come around towards Bottomless Pit, you recognize how fast you're going and how important this upper section is to keep momentum and speed. You really have to concentrate at this point. I don't even see the top of the mountain.
This year at Pikes Peak, I kind of described Fred as the most prepared driver at the peak. He did so much homework of learning the mountain. He just was working every day. He was physically fit. He had done great things to the car. He'd tested the car repeatedly, and the fact that he had learned it so much, the intimidation factor was really quite low for him, so he could enjoy it and just go fast.
Saw that Fred had won, and I fell into shock. In absolute, I mean, I was so thrilled, I couldn't believe it.
Well, everybody here in the Porsche community, which is pretty good size for a city our size, was ecstatic.
It was really special this year to see Fred win that class, but not just win it, because he comes back at it and he's worked at it and everything. It was just a combination of everything that was so great to see it pay off that way for Fred.
The performance that he accomplished, that to me was absolutely thrilling, and it was thrilling to everybody around him, to the whole team, to his friends, and especially to those of us who worked with him.
I was absolutely astonished. I mean, it was when I found out that Fred Veitch had actually won the Time Attack 2 class outright, I was overwhelmed. I mean, it was like a dream. It's the storybook ending.
And we were watching the camera and watching him go. It was very surreal because he went across the finish line and the gentleman up top waving the flag. And it was an emotional moment to be next to his family, and we all celebrated, and it was an incredible experience to be part of it.
That was my best day, and I was so happy for Fred. The effort that was put in between Petiti, himself, I was just ecstatic about that. I really was.
He was there with his wife and his daughter and his sons, and it was amazing. It is absolutely amazing. Somebody just took a 12-year-old Porsche Turbo that is virtually stock and went up that hill in 11 minutes and 15 seconds. Just amazing. Gave it his all. Parting of the clouds, whole family there watching. Amazing.
It didn't really sink in when we first, as the times were coming in. I mean, it really didn't sink in that we had won this class, and and that we had accomplished something that some people strive 20 years for and never accomplish.
I became very emotional. I didn't realize how important this was to me as a goal, personal goal, and Dave Petiti and the rest of the team were just amazing, and frankly I broke down when I got to the bottom. It was just an emotional release after all the effort and time and effort on everybody's part.